Okay, welcome back, everybody. This is Jonathan Cox.
And Jessica Cox.
And this is John Talks, a show where we talk about business, life, relationships, and money. So today we're going to talk about one of the books that was the most instrumental, I think, in scaling up at Aquavita. And it's called The 4 Disciplines of Execution, or 4DX. And it's by 3 different authors, but it's by Chris McKesney, Sean Covey, whose father, of course, did the 7 Habits for Highly Effective People, and Jim Hewling. And I'm sorry if I'm butchering any of those.
We love you, Jim.
But today we're going to do an overview of the 4 principles that are mentioned in this book, why we chose to do this, and we're going to talk a little bit about the first principle. Okay, so the reason why we started doing this at Aquavita was because we were getting to a point where we'd been around for a while. We'd created systems to deal with project management and billing and budgeting, and we kind of had our mission and vision thrown into the mix of all of that, and just trying to keep track of all of those different systems and our goals and our vision, and communicating that clearly to the team in a way that got engagement was a challenge. So we got to that point that I think all businesses get to, where it's like, how do I pull all of this stuff that I've created into a system that the whole team can get behind? And for us, that was 4DX.
And having a focus, because that's one of the things. When you're an entrepreneur or, division head, any kind of leadership position, there are always more good ideas than there is capacity to execute. Which is not a huge surprise, but it just kind of acknowledges that truth and helps you focus on the 1 or 2 goals that are going to have the most impact. And that was the key, because there's all kinds of amazing things, and he has 5,000 ideas a minute. We all have really great ideas for how to move things forward, but the force of the focus of 4DX gives you something that you can all get behind, like you were saying, and then it moves the needle in an insignificant way. So... Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when you've got an excellent team, coming up with good ideas is not the problem. The contrary is true, and actually they talk about this when he gets into rule number 1, which is to focus on a wildly important goal and to kind of pull that out of what he calls the whirlwind, which is your mix of everyday activities that you have to do at work, and identifying one thing as a team that everyone can get behind. And in this, one of the examples that he uses is Tim Cook, CEO of Apple, was at one of their company meetings, and he said to everybody, we will always have more good ideas than can be executed well. And that is definitely true at Aquavita. I mean, we'll have a couple of dozen ideas, but only time to work on one. So the idea behind the wildly important goal is, one of the analogies that he uses is, if you were to take a piece of paper and you were to try to push all 5 of your fingers through the paper, you would have a really hard time doing that without destroying the whole piece of paper, because the force has been distributed across 5 different points on the paper, and how it creates the tension there. So what he said is, if you were to take 1 or maybe 2 fingers and try to push that through the paper, it would go through with much greater ease. And during the research process that they went through to create this book, what they actually found is that as you started adding goals as a company, the number of goals that you could complete with excellence went down exponentially. So in one of the examples, or the data tables in here, it shows that companies that focused on 1 or 2 goals did 1 or 2 goals with excellence. And then as you started getting above that, 3 to 5 goals or whatever, what they noticed is that it didn't just remain like a constant, like a slightly declining percentage, like, they still did 50% of those goals. You got to a point, and I think it was when a company had 11 or more goals, that it went to 0.
Yeah, there's no way.
Right. And what happened is it became such an unfocused whirlwind that people became frozen. They didn't know where to focus or what to do. They were constantly being pulled from one objective to the next. And so it's critical to keep your wildly important goal to 1 or 2 goals.
And they have a good example too with like an air traffic controller. They land one airplane at a time. And so making sure that you're doing this well, you're still going to have your team focusing 80% on the whirlwind. It's not saying you're going to drop any of these goals. If you have a safety, element of your business, you're not going to drop that to focus on customer satisfaction. You're going to pick one thing, and the idea is that if everything else in your business stayed the same, what are the 1 or 2 things that would have the biggest impact? Assuming this all stays at the same level of performance, if you lifted 1 or 2 areas, what would impact the whole, what would move your organization forward the most? So you're not dropping anything by not having it in the goals. I think that's sometimes some of the problem is you're like, but it's all important. Yeah, it is, but you've got to acknowledge the limitations of physics and your team's attention span. And if you can give that, the John Kennedy, we're going to the moon, everybody can line up behind that vision, and that's something that's easy to understand. So that helps.
Yeah, absolutely. And for our team, what we do on an annual basis is we get together for one big summit. And in that summit, we go through a process where we decide as a team what is the 1 or 2, or what are the 1 or 2 wildly important goals that we want to focus on within the next year. And the system for creating that is it has to be a goal that you can say, we are going to move this thing from X to Y by when. And typically at Aquavita, we set a financial goal, but it could be a production goal or, units produced or whatever it is that your business does. But we set ours as an income goal. And every week, and we'll get into this in later videos, but every week we have an accountability meeting to go over what we did the previous week to advance or to turn the needle up on that wildly important goal. And on a quarterly basis, we evaluate whether or not we're still going in the right direction with that goal. Are we consistently meeting the goal or are we not? And we analyze, if not, why? And if so, why? And how can we do more of it?
Yeah, what's working, what's broken, what's confused, what needs fixing.
Mm-hmm. But since starting this process, every year we have been able to meet our wildly important goal. And we've had a couple of years where we've not only met it, we've just straight up blown it out of the water, which as a leader, of course, leaves me with the question, how are we going to measure up to that this year? Which is exciting in its own way. Yeah, it's a great problem to have.
But the other thing I like about when you're in the first part and you're starting the process, it's going to be a challenge to choose your wildly important goal. Because if you are trying to improve yourself, if you're trying to improve your team, you care. And you care about a lot of things. And the measurement part can be kind of intimidating because you want to pick a wildly important goal that's actually going to help you move a certain number for it. It could be an income number. It could be a customer satisfaction number. And so you want to pick something that is going to help you actually with what they say is the smallest number of battles to win the war. Because there could be a lot of different factors affecting your income or your customer satisfaction. So your next goal after you pick we want to move customer satisfaction from 90% to 95% by the next 6 months. Then you have to choose what your lead measure is going to be. And that's going to be, okay, for this thing that we've chosen in our company that we are going to move forward as a team to hit together, what's the least amount of work we can do to make a gigantic impact? If we're going to win this war, what are the least amount of battles that we have to, that we could fight to win this? And try and leverage as much as you can instead of picking something that's not really going to have as much impact. Look for the highest impact activity that you can measure that's going to impact that wildly important goal.
Yeah, and a phrase that I think appears in the text is focus on the 1 or 2 things that make the most difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, and when you're looking at your whirlwind as a team of all of the possibilities that are in front of you, and then you're kind of holding that up to what your mission or vision is as an organization, let that mission or vision aid you in your selection criteria, picking one thing out of the whirlwind that if you really focused on it all together as a team would make the most difference.
So it's a tough conversation. You want to have, your people kind of ready for this. We all read the book before we went into this discussion so that we all kind of understood the criteria, because it does take a little bit of
that was our first wildly important goal, actually, was to read this book together.
Read the book and go through it together so that you're all educated on how the system works, that you're all kind of moving and picking things with the same criteria, and then you can have that discussion around, are we doing this correctly, based on this system. And so that really helps to kind of get your ground rules set, and also everyone finding their own ways forward, because as you choose your wildly important goal, if you have multiple departments, each department might find a different way of kind of moving towards that goal. So if they're understanding the base operating system, you're going to get so much more buy-in and so much a better discussion around your initial wildly important goal to begin with. So that was really helpful for our team because we all had the same playbook.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that we do that help to facilitate that, we have something called Wisdom Wednesday every week. And Wisdom Wednesday, we do it at 9:30 a.m. on Wednesday. And we usually have some sort of educational assignment, like a book or a training course or something along those lines that we're all doing together as a team. And on Wednesday, we come to the group having read whatever the assignment was or done whatever the assignment was the week before, and we do a knowledge share. So we'll talk about what each of us have learned from those educational materials. And 4DX was the first thing that we did, or not the first thing that we did in a Wisdom Wednesday, but we set reading the book as our wildly important goal. And we'll get into how you set up the tiny little goals that meet it, but it's called lead measures. So our lead measure every week as a team was to read a certain number of pages and then to come to the team with at least 2 takeaways every week with what we learned from those pages. And then after we completed this, we did a big summit where we decided on our first wildly important goal.
And it's been really instrumental and helpful for us just being able to focus as a team, because when you get into the whirlwind, which is all the things you have to do to keep business going, it's really hard to move forward, and you kind of have things, they're important, but everyone has a different idea about what those are. So just the process of building consensus on here's what we're going to run forward with was really, really helpful in building our team together. And, again, having everyone pulling in the same direction is immensely powerful. And having the respect for your team to go through that process with them and make them part of deciding the wildly important goal. Again, depending on your organization size, you may do that different ways, or you may have a smaller group decide that. But for us, it was really helpful to have the whole team contribute to that. What is our wildly important goal? And let's talk about what's important to us as an organization. Mm-hmm. That was really valuable by itself.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, anything you want to add?
Read the book, it's so good.
Yep.
And we'd love to hear if you've done this or if you're thinking about this and you have questions, let us know. We've got a contact form on, which one do we have?
Yeah, so if you visit our website and just scroll down to the bottom of the homepage, you'll see a consultation form that you can fill out. You can do a free consultation for your business and even help with this process. I've rolled it out for a few of the businesses that we're working with. One of the businesses actually quadrupled their sales within a 3-year period of time after implementing this. We've probably doubled ours since implementing it about 4 years ago. So can't recommend it enough, but go to aquavitacreative.com and just scroll down the page there until you see the request free consultation form, and we'll get it set up and talk to you. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. We love you. You're our audience. It's all about helping you fellow entrepreneurs out there and strivers, people that are constantly trying to grow and become better. We started this whole thing because we want to help as many people as possible, and this seemed like a great venue for doing that. So thank you for tuning in to John Talks, and this is John Cox.
Jessica Cox. Hang in there till we see you next time.
Yep, keep growing and keep going. Thanks so much for listening to our show. If you like this content, please click on the subscribe button below. You can also visit aquavitacreative.com to schedule a free consultation. Just click on the button on the homepage. It'll take you right to the form. We'd love to speak to you about your business and answer any questions that you have about business, finance, life, relationships, whatever. You can comment also below. And thank you guys again for tuning in. We'll catch you next time.
See ya.